But now, how low will they go? That's the focus of tonight's angle. Just how far will the left actually go to protect their pet causes and their destructive agenda? Well, we've already seen that to save their fantasy of a borderless nation, they'll look the other way as an endless stream of indigence, of narcotics and crime wreaks havoc on middle America. The White House just isn't interested at all in the problem at the border. They're actively rooting for the illegals. The more the better, in fact, especially if they end up moving into communities where Republicans have been making political inroads. Now, today, Biden was just 100 miles or so from the Arizona border, but he's too much of a coward to travel there to face the reality of what his administration has done.
Why go to a border state and not visit the border?
Because there's more important thing going on. They're going to invest billions of dollars in a new enterprise.
Well, more important than the sovereignty of your nation? Sure. Now, the Democrats have sunk just as low in the pursuit of a carbon-free, control-heavy world. Efforts to cripple the fossil fuel industry have driven fossil fuel profits up, in the short term at least, while leaving America vulnerable in the position of a beggar to the world's dictators. China's just laughing at us as we unilaterally disarm in the world of energy. And again, Democrats just don't care. The Americans hurt by high prices for food, fuel, pretty much everything. Future generations left holding the bag because of all of this runaway green spending. And the entire world hurt by our funding this proxy war against Russia. And that tops it all off. All of this is happening, and the Democrats don't care.
What is the Granholm plan to increase oil production in America?
Oh, my God. That is hilarious. Would that I had the magic wand on this.
We're in a transition, and transitions are complicated. We need to manage this transition in a smart way.
Tell us, Pete. Now, you couldn't write a better plan to collapse America if you tried. And they're taking a scorched-earth approach on the trans agenda as well. As we know, the destruction of the nuclear family is one of their premier agenda items.
Do you think states should have a right to ban gender-affirming health care?
I don't think any state or anybody should have the right to do that. As a moral question and as a legal question. I just think it's wrong.
As a pediatrician, when it comes to making sure kids are healthy and happy, I know how important care that affirms someone's true identity can be.
Transgender youth should be allowed to be able to go to school freely, to be able to express themselves freely.
Well, in one Northern Virginia suburb, a trans youth expressing himself, well, went beyond using the restroom of the opposite sex. It meant committing a heinous crime. That radical gender and racial activists have so co-opted the Democrat Party that school administrators in Loudoun County, Virginia, literally covered up a sexual assault. Now, you probably recall some of the details of how that school district there tried to bury the story of a rape of a female student. They moved her assailant to another school without parents' knowledge, and then when the victim's father expressed his understandable outrage at a school board meeting, they turned him into the villain. Well, now the grand jury convened in the matter just released a report detailing what the school administrators did to sweep things under the rug. And it's much worse than we thought. According to the report, a teacher's aide walked into the bathroom and, despite seeing 2 pairs of feet under the stall door, this is during the rape itself, that teacher did nothing and apparently alerted no one. The report also found that the district concealed the nature of the attack, even as it was preparing to release a controversial new transgender bathroom policy. After the rape, the student was transferred to another school where he committed other egregious acts of misconduct against girls that were known to officials but kept from the public. Now, even the rapist's own grandmother told officials that he was a sociopath. But little was done. Predictably, the student rapist, remember at the time he supposedly was wearing a skirt, went on to commit another sexual assault, this time in a classroom. Now, when he learned of the anal rape of his daughter by a boy, again in trans dress-up, Scott Smith, the father of the victim, rushed to the school, but was initially blocked from entering. Well, he eventually gained access, but was escorted out of the building. The principal contacted the superintendent's office about getting a no trespassing letter against the victim's father. The grand jury reveals that while all this was happening, the rapist remained missing and at large. Get your mind wrapped around this for a second. The school was more concerned about containing an angry dad than finding a rapist on the loose. Listen, we have to understand that the left has changed. We kind of used to believe in the 80s, maybe 70s, that they were relativists who didn't believe in absolute truths. But now we face an aggressive, moralizing left that will pursue its goals, whatever the cost to Americans. And they're going to do this with the help, and they're doing it with the help of a consortium of big business, teachers' unions, woke bureaucrats, Hollywood, and a supportive media. They're convinced that you're the problem. You're the ones that need to be punished. People like this.
Parents, school personnel are required to rubber stamp your child's transgender identity at school without your knowledge or consent.
My oldest child will be starting middle school in the fall. Where is her protection if a biological male is staring at her as she changes her clothes in the locker room?
Focus on raising our rock-bottom test scores and do away with exposing minors to sexually explicit material.
Where is the math? Where is the reading? Where is the history? Where are the strong values?
Strong values? Well, the left's enforcers certainly have them. But those values are diametrically and at times demonically opposed to what most families want for their children and for the country. For years, the left was emboldened to inflict this twisted agenda on our children, frankly, because parents and politicians were pretty much asleep at the wheel. But the good news is we're waking up. And in Loudoun County, brave parents were not afraid. They stood up and they spoke up, even as they were compared to domestic terrorists by the DOJ. If those parents hadn't had the guts to get involved, none of these disturbing facts would have come to light. And that young female student would have been, in a sense, victimized all over again. So much for the Democrats and girl power. The sooner Americans realize how hostile the left has become to normal American life, the sooner we can begin to win the type of political victories that we need to stop this agenda. And that's The Angle.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.